guys that can adapt and get good at that skill set are the ones that are going to be more successful with in terms to margin compression. Not saying you can't buy a good vehicle at an auction, but we're talking about making the most money per acquisition.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let's see here. I've got the feed up and I've got the recording started. I'm going to hit up LinkedIn real quick. Here is the live feed.
I'm going to lock my door real quick.
All right. Okay, that's up. So Rickey, now you're out of the car.
I'm out of the car. It was hot. It was overheating my iPad on the dash.
Oh, you didn't have it running? You were just sitting there?
No. It was running, but the heat off the glass was still was a little too much. It was starting to melt.
Your Bentley doesn't have air conditioning?
Get somebody out of the office.
No kidding. So you're giving up on the auction then?
I'm gonna give up on the auction today.
Look at that. Look at that.
There'll be another one tomorrow.
Says a lot, man. That says a lot.
So I can overpay for a car any day.
I like it. I like it. Well, listen, we just got the live feed going. We are here on the Used Car Marketing Strategies Mastermind. This is our inaugural launch. Aaron Gomez and I were talking a few weeks ago. I was telling him about the idea and the concept, and he volunteered to be a part of that, and he threw Brent and Rickey's name in the hat. So we've got Brent Faron down in St. Louis. Brent, if you want to say hi.
Hello.
And Brent, you're at Bo Beuckman Ford.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you run the used car department, correct?
Correct.
All right. And Rickey Bomar, you are down in Jacksonville, Florida at, was it Duval Motor Company?
Yes. Yeah. We have 4 franchise stores.
And you're the buyer?
Yes. Buyer / used car director. So anything to do with used cars, I'm in on it.
Across all 4 stores. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Great. And then Aaron Gomez, familiar face on our neck of the woods in Houston. What's going on, Aaron? Good to see you.
Great to see you, Ryan.
So, and thanks for getting these guys together. So, Aaron, do me a favor. Why don't you introduce the group? Because you guys talk pretty regularly and have a little bit of a backstory. Maybe you could fill us in on how everybody knows each other.
Well, I mean, I think I've known Rickey for quite some time. We've worked on some collaborative projects and acquisitions. Brent, I met through Vehicle Acquisition Network. And, in regards to us talking a lot, I mean, we really kind of bounce off ideas and acquisitions, what vehicles are worth, how they're performing, what we see in our collective markets. So, I mean, it's a great group of guys to, whenever you have that extra question or one-off vehicle, to be able to reach out and see what everybody's seeing. I mean, with people being in different parts of the country, Rickey probably sees similar high line to what I see. We both, Florida and Texas, kind of see the same things going on with sedans, trucks, and SUVs. So we just stay abreast of what's going on in our markets, because usually if something's happening in Florida, it kind of migrates over to Texas, and if it happens in Texas, it migrates over to Florida. Mm-hmm. And Brent's kind of in the northern centermost point, so we like to keep in communication and kind of see what he's seeing over there. With Rickey and Brent both being in franchise organizations, you kind of get a gauge on if inventory is moving, or if the market starts to reflect a depreciation, then we rapidly make adjustments on our acquisition points.
Cool. And so the hope here is to take some of these conversations that you guys have, that dealers across the country have, and want to bring these conversations to the forefront in a public forum. So for folks that are watching here live, thanks for being here. If you're here watching the recording, then let me just give a quick orientation. This is the Used Car Marketing Strategies recurring virtual event mastermind series that we've rolled out. You can find this and things like it under the education tab up on autoconversion.net. And so here is the sign up page for this. And by enrolling, it's basically like a subscription. So by signing up, it guarantees your spot here. So you can come here on the Zoom webinar and interact with us and participate in any sort of Q&A that we might do. This is not a presentation. It's not a vendor pitch of any sort. It's conversations about used marketing. We know it's, there's the term or the buzzword of margin compression is everywhere you look right now. Dale Pollock at V Auto talks about margin compression. Our sponsor here, Vehicle Acquisition Network, this is a focus atop. Everyone's dealing with thinning profits on the used car side. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but in 2017, the aggregate net return in the used car business was a negative for the first time. Correct?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't have the exact number. It's been going down, but I think 2017, at least amongst franchise dealers, we were at a net negative in the used car business. And so, yeah, we want to get together, put our minds together, share some of the challenges and struggles that we're having on the used car side and how we're dealing with those. So by signing up, you will get an email kind of like this right here, and it'll show on there who we're having on as guests for any particular event. So we got Rickey Bomar, Aaron Gomez, and Brent Faron, and hopefully these guys will be regular faces that are up here. So Rickey, I'd love to maybe let you kind of lead the way here. Let's get out of the buzzword of margin compression and turn it into a conversation and how we're dealing with that. What's one of the top one or two strategies or approaches that you're deploying right now to combat this compression?
The first one would be, we have to price aggressively, right? You have to price the market. It's not 20 years ago where you just take your costs and add $4,000. That doesn't work. It's internet, it's digital. It's how do you get your people in the showroom? So we have to price aggressively, which we do. We're velocity pricing. But we also monitor and make sure that we're not discounting our discount, building value in the vehicle, who's doing that. So we monitor that. Every deal is noted. Was it discounted from the internet price? And if so, how much and why? And then we talk about it. We still sell the car, but we talk about it. That manager makes that decision to sell the car. But if he only made $300 when he should have made $1,000, and it was priced aggressively online at that $1,000, then we dig into it. We peel the onion back and how was that deal worked? A lot of times it's just it's who can get the price lowest the quickest. Hey, I saw the same car across the street and it's $1,000 less. If you can beat that deal, I'll do business with you. Well, so many people just say, okay, let's beat it, instead of digging in. Is it the same car? I mean, we're in the used car business. There's no two used cars alike. What is that car? And build that value. And I would also kind of, the thing that a lot of dealers aren't talking about is training. Training your people. And that's where I love technology, and I love the different systems that we have. There's so many systems that we could look and say, hey, the car's worth this, and we can price it at this. But still, the training of the people on building value, even test drives. How many used car managers are going out and actually test driving every car? What about test driving with a customer? We've found some success with that. It's a whole different story when you are that customer's test drove our car, and now we're going to go back into his car and we're going to test drive it together.
Rickey, let me interject because I liked what you were saying. Don't discount the discount, which I'd like you to elaborate more. I mean, we all know that you got to move the car. There's got to be a point where you're willing to lose money on moving that car retail, correct?
Correct. And it's going to be dependent on age. What is that car? What's the return on that car? If I took it to the auction tomorrow and shot it, well, what's my return on it? Yeah. Do I have a better deal on a retail customer? Also, is there a trade involved? As hard as it is to get vehicles, am I giving away a good trade because I don't want to move on my car? So there's a lot of things that go into it. But if you have a fresh inventory and it's 2 weeks old, and it lines up well in whatever system you're using, whether it's vAuto or any of the other systems out there, it lines up good. You should make money on it, and we're discounting it off of our already aggressive price right at the first pencil or second pencil. Then shame on us.
Is there a specific age that just applies flat for every car, or is it really it's car by car?
It goes car by car. Now with our group, at 15 days, we start looking at exit strategy. Mm-hmm. So turn is a big thing for us as well. Sure. Because of our aggressive pricing. After 30 days, there's not much meat left on the bone. I'm not saying we don't keep cars past 30 days, but I do start looking at 15 days. That car's everywhere. That car's on OVE. That car's on ADESA dealer block. That car is every wholesale outlet and retail outlet
at 15 days.
At 15 days.
Brent, what about you on your side? Do you have a specific age where you know you got to move it, or is that vary per car?
I think, like Rickey said, it varies per car. Like we're kind of the same way. I'm at 10 days. All my vehicles start going up on every single wholesale websites, or on the majority of them. And it really does depend per car. Some of the cars I'm going to have a lot of reconditioning that I'm going to have to do, et cetera, et cetera. And, they might take quite a bit of time to get through, the process. So it definitely varies.
I think Rickey said something. Ryan, you asked, is it dependent on car and is it dependent on age? And I think Rickey said something really powerful. In my personal opinion, I don't think it depends on the car, and I don't think it depends on the age. We have all this technology that we've been talking about that allows us to make the right decision. And if we've made a bad decision on acquisition, then we need to price it to sell. We need to be aggressive. We need to figure out how to move it at that 10 to 15 day exit strategy. So, and I'll do it frequently. I mean, if I overpay for a car we don't add $4,000 and hope that it sells to the next consumer that walks in. I might price a car making $100, $200, but getting that customer engagement is going to open the door for more customer engagements, great customer service, moving a car, opening room for back-end products. And the sooner that franchise dealers start to adapt this point of impact mentality to embrace the acquisitions decision, and we're going to start seeing healthier inventory that is moving aggressively before it gets to that 60-day mark. I think everybody has kind of been drilled into the industry. Oh, when it's 60 days, it's aged and it's got to go to the auction. Rickey's talking about 15 days. At 30 days, if you don't have any customers on it, then, what's going to happen? That 30 days is going to turn into another 30 days. I mean, it's time to price it to sell. Likewise, on the let's kind of flip the table. Rickey talks about discounting the discount. We all have technology, we have BDPs, SRPs. If that vehicle's got 200% more than another vehicle sending there likewise, then Rickey sounds like he's having a conversation with managers and training his people. Why are we discounting this car when we've got all this activity on it? You might have 10 customers on one car. We talk about margin compression, and that's part of that is the market. Part of that is, the business now. But as we're throwing away money because we're so desperate to sell a car, the top performers are going to start looking at hot cars. They're going to start looking at vehicles that have multiple leads, multiple qualified buyers, and not discounting that car,
So when you got a trade coming in, and Brent, I'd love to maybe hear this from you. You have a trade coming in. You don't choose what people are bringing in to trade. Do you know before you make that offer what you're doing with that car? Do you already have that exit strategy in mind?
Yeah, I know what I'm going to do with it, whether I'm going to wholesale it straight up or whether I'm going to retail it. And then in addition to that, I've got a backup, kind of like a backup wholesale plan. Like if it is aging, I think I'm very confident I can get out of it at this price. So, and if not, then I know that I could price it low enough to where I could blow it out and then still like Ricky and Aaron were saying, possibly get a trade, where I can make more money in the back end or, through recon or finance. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I really do try to have a strategy right out the gate.
You think that, Aaron, do you think that's common or uncommon amongst dealers to have that disposition strategy?
I'd love to say that it was common, but more times than not, and as I talk to more and more dealer groups, bigger groups, there is no afterthought of disposition strategy. They have when you talk about people having an exit strategy at acquisition, you're starting to talk about the top 10%. As dealers have adapted to vAuto, we see that they've adapted to purchasing strategies, the vehicles that they need on their lot, and that's the main focus. You tell a buyer that he needs to go buy 30, 40 cars, probably the easiest way to do that is to log into an auction and buy the 30 cars that match up with your vAuto analytics. I need 4 trucks, $10,000 to $20,000. I need 5 trucks, 25, and 3 trucks that are over $50,000. Typically that's as much of the foresight that I see going into an acquisition strategy plan. I don't see people really, a seasoned buyer is going to know the market. He's going to, and he's buying that vehicle to sell retail. That's what he's there to do.
Right.
Not really given a thought of what happens to it at 15 days or 30 days or 60 days.
You don't buy a car at auction with the expectation you're going to bring it back to auction or wholesale it. But what percentage of cars that you do buy at auction, Ricky, I'd be curious maybe from you. You go to auction to get cars that you need because you can sell them retail. How often are you wrong and lose out on that? Or is
Ricky's never wrong.
It happens. It does happen. But I'll back up. There are times where I'll go to an auction or buy a car wholesale with no intentions of putting it on the retail lot, only to wholesale it again for profit. So that is still something that can be done. And I do that every chance that I get. And the stores appreciate that. Believe me.
Hyper.
Wait, how can you buy a car at wholesale to profit back on wholesale? I mean, you're just outsmarting some guy. You're just outsmarting.
You just get lucky.
I mean, especially when you consider the fees.
If you're not buying cars off the street from private individuals, you're missing the boat. Sure. Any dealer that's listening, you're missing the boat.
Yeah, which seems to be a lot. I mean, it seems to be. I don't think we've crossed that 80-20 mark. That I don't think 20% of dealers are buying from private sellers.
They don't understand it yet. They can't imagine.
It's only been going on for the past 20 years, like 15, 20 years. But it's a big, it's the great unknown. And, with that, where's the training and the development going to come from buying off the streets? There's not a tremendous amount of technology on that side.
Yeah. No, it changes the process. That's the biggest challenge, I think, is having the right process in place with your people. Brent, what were you going to say?
I think it's also when you're buying off the street, there's no excuse. There's no excuses when you buy a car off the street for why you didn't make money on it. When you have a trade-in, you can always go back to, at least we got the truck. We sold a new, or we moved a vehicle, blah, blah, blah. We made money in finance. We got an auction. It's like, I had all this reconditioning, blah, 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 excuses that I didn't know. Whereas when you're buying a car off the street, you know what you're getting. Like they're there, they're in front of you, and you don't have a trade to leverage or anything like that. So I think it is, you got to be sharp and you got to know what you're doing. And so people fear that when they are buying cars from private parties, and it hasn't really, I guess, been done by people don't really, like Aaron said, understand it, but it is, extremely valuable. In my business alone we've ramped up our used car department, almost doubled than what it was before.
Yeah, I think it speaks to like what you had mentioned, Ricky, about training, training how to move cars faster, but just buying cars from consumers, you have to have people trained and devoted to that, because it's a different sales process, if you will.
Completely different.
Don't have the trade. They might not be buying something else. That chances are they're not, and it's a whole different negotiation process. So, yeah, I think the reason why it's not as embraced as you would expect is because it is difficult. It gets you out of your comfort zone, and it's very challenging.
Ryan, you asked Ricky how he buys cars and then at wholesale to reflip to wholesale and make money at it.
Yeah.
And not everybody in the market can do that. Let's not kid ourselves as to say that a big group's going to be able to do this. But I think at the end of the day, Ricky's constantly acquiring vehicles. You ask, well, how can you do that? It's because you're constantly governing yourself to be great at acquisitions. And if you have that exit strategy from before you even buy the car, if you look at this car and say, I know that I can move it for this, Ricky's got so many more data points than an average dealer does. He's done it 100 times in a week. Unless you've got a dealer that has the buying plan of going out and buying 40 cars and then their buyer's done, you're never going to get to that level unless you're buying hundreds of cars a month. And that, I think, Ricky has a diverse portfolio. He buys at auctions. He buys from customers. He buys from a service drive. This is not selling cars. This is actually, you're going to have to develop your acquisition skills, and they're going to have to be deep. So I think that's how Ricky is able to acquire vehicles.
If I were to summarize that, you got to be buying a lot of cars, but you also have to know what you're doing with them when you're buying them. So it's not like you're just buying for the sake of buying. You have to know your disposition,
100%
strategy when you're buying that car. And so, I guess to your point, Ricky, you're at auction, you see something. What can you give us an example of how much research goes? You're at the auction, you see a car, something makes you think, I could buy this and then profit on it at wholesale. You're thinking that, right?
Right.
So do you just know it, or do you have a tool that you use to go in and figure out if you're right or wrong? I mean, it sounds like you're buying. It sounds like you're on the trading floor.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. It's stocks on wheels. But I use vAuto. I've got a lot of contacts. So that being said, I can see a car. Every buyer has holes in different places that he goes to buy cars, whether it be auctions, other dealers, whatever it is. But that it's places to buy cars, and you go to those auctions, and I might know, hey, this specific auction, I know that there's no highline buyers there. So if a highline car comes in, I know that there's going to be no competition to me. So if I'm the only one on the floor, and most dealers are afraid of that car, maybe the dealer that owns is afraid of the car, doesn't know what it's worth. I get it. I'll sell it. And just to, turn it around and sell it again, or run it in my lane. And I'll buy anything. I really will. I'll buy anything with wheels.
Yeah.
I'll buy a trailer. I'll buy an RV. I'll buy a motorcycle. I'll buy cars, trucks. I don't care what it is. If there's if there's $1 to be made on it, I'll buy it. But you also have to have outlets for those things. Sure. If you don't have the outlets, I wouldn't recommend to just go start buying.
This isn't something that somebody's going to do overnight.
No, this is
starting buying, right?
We're kind of getting into like a very advanced stage of the game, Ryan. I think most dealers would be doing well to really focus on their acquisition strategy and get the retail up and running.
Sure. No, it's fine. No, like I said, I never would have thought you'd buy a car at auction knowing that you're going to be able to profit on it at the wholesale market. I mean, that's revealing. But like you said,
it's really no different than when you take a trade in. You mentioned, do you know at the time of trade what you're going to do with a car?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's no different. You have to know. You just have to know whether you're buying a car or you're trading one in. you're gonna wholesale it or you're gonna retail it. Yeah. And if you're retailing, so many dealers will go, well, man, I had to step up on this one, so I'll get us out of it. We're gonna retail it. Get rid of the car now, because that's the wrong move. And a lot of dealers do it, but that's the wrong move. The car, it's worth what it's worth.
Yeah, it's always scary when you got to retail a car because you don't have an outlet for it, because none of your wholesalers would buy it. So,
well, guys, I think good stuff came out of it. Obviously, buying wholesale to sell at wholesale is one thing. Brent, I know you had alluded to. We didn't get into it, and we'll do that on a future event like this. We'll get into time to line a little bit and talk more about things that you specifically do to get cars there, get them on the line more quickly. It was interesting. I liked hearing the difference in that age spot, right? It is kind of per car, but you do have a general baseline of when you really got to, get that car. You really got to get it moving on. You don't want cars sitting around a lot. And then Rickey, you brought up the whole training aspect. And I think that makes for a good future topic as well. We can talk specifically, training and equipping your personnel, how to move cars, and that negotiation process to move them on retail, but also to acquire them as well. So we like to keep this to about 30 minutes. We got a few minutes left. I'm going to do a little closing orientation, but Aaron, do you want to provide any final thoughts or contrast?
No, I'm looking forward to the next meeting. It's always great when I get to talk to my friends about the stuff that we do every day. So I'm good. I'm open for it.
All right. And Brent, how about yourself?
No, I think we hit a lot of good points. Like you said, I think time to line is on a whole nother, 30-minute segment.
Yeah.
But I think acquisition and buying is becoming more and more of a lost art. It's more like used car managers, just a lot of dealerships just buying. So I think, like Rickey said, training to actually that person who that's all he does, buys. And that is so important to dealerships. And I feel like that's becoming a lost art.
Mm-hmm. And it's becoming more and more essential too. If you want to make it, I think if you want to make it in this business, you need to embrace these things that came up today, specifically around your acquisition and disposition strategies. So, well, guys, do me a favor. You talk to other folks in the business, people that can share their experience and their talents, just like you guys. And we welcome. We want thought leaders and people that are doing what you do to come up here and share these things. So feel free to spread the word and welcome them to come on as well.
Okay.
And folks that are tuned in with us, thank you for being here. We will release this out on the AutoConverse podcast. And let me just do one final mention here. I'm going to bring up my screen again. Ding, ding, ding. There we go. So like I said, you're either watching live or you've enrolled and you can join us here backstage. Not really going to do much in the way of Facebook advertising for this, like we do some of our other stuff. I'll pretty much keep this to our website and LinkedIn. And when you get the emails, look at the bottom to see who we have lined up for each event. We're going to do this about every month. Not a hard month, but every 4 to 6 weeks. And then also we have a calendar of events. If you look under education, click on that calendar tab, and what you'll see here is all the events that we have lined up. And then if you can click on the event, you'll see who we have slated to grab a seat. So you'll see these guys, Aaron, Rickey, and Brent, hopefully on a recurring basis. And that being said, thanks again, guys. Great talking with you here, and we'll talk with all of you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and shut down and stay tuned for more. Take care.
You got a beautiful smile, Rickey.
Thanks.